of the Enemy as well. Blood of the Enemy essence along with Chill Streak is just a guaranteed KO almost, but you can counter it by not standing next to each other. So Raikou, Waz, and Chaz need to make sure that they're avoiding close quarters with each other at all times and saving a Glider's Medallion or an Everyman for himself to break out of a leg sweep and then use a mobility cooldown to spread out. Against a Frost Death Knight, if you're not spread out, you're probably dead. But Monkarn gets intercepted in midfield. They immediately pull the trigger. They're not even waiting for the corruption to stack. They are just outright destroying Monkarn. Will they find the kill this early on? They bop off the Karma. They are all or nothing. Bit surprising to not just see the Vendetta pulled as well at the start of this game. Things from beyond are beginning to spawn on Monkarn. He diffused magics, but he's so low on health. Burley has not left crowd control. He tried to sit the blind. He manages to get away with it, and the all-in doesn't net a kill for Method Black. Let's see what the Bergen Boys can get done.
Well, I mean, it didn't get a kill, but it got Monkarn's cloak, so he removed the corruption. They got Touch of Karma. They got the diffused magic. They got a lot, but Raikou, a surprise Justigath, has forced out the Cauterize. Now he's going to be feeling really scared as they make a swap over onto Burley, trying to get that trinket from him. He's caught into a kitty shot. Do they have the damage to actually take him down? Unfortunately not. Burley, with his Astral Shift, with his Ascendance, will actually stay alive despite that very scary situation. He kind of knew I cannot trinket here. Yeah, getting his trinket desynced with blind would be an absolute nightmare for Burley and would give Method Black a major win condition. So he greeted it out. It paid off for Burley and the Bergen Boys, and now it's once again a big assault here on Raikou.
You might be wondering what Burley is doing. He's kind of running in the middle of the map on top of his team, but this is what he needs to do because Waz will just try and attack him, and if he stands away from his team, they won't stack up for Chill Streak. So Burley has to take the gamble and standing on top of the mage, so if the rogue wants to attack anything, he's also standing on top of the mage. If he doesn't attack, then it's just you're attacking a mage for free. You're going to win on mana. But if he does, then you get the Chill Streak bounce. And this is why we see Burley just constantly running into the middle of the map. You might, like, if you're a healer at home, you might be thinking, why is he just standing out in the open like that? But he needs to be standing next to his team so that Frost Death Knight is enabled to do his massive burst damage. You see a Death Grip, but no stun lock. Bit surprising usage of the Death Grip there. The Heartstop Delirium also prevents the mage from moving very frequently, so if Burley wants to use Earthen Wall Totem, he's pretty much guaranteed to get the value if he uses it right after a blink. Unfortunately, actually getting caught in a polymorph there, maybe a miscommunication on the interrupts. Only the Spearhand Strike was available. Raikou blinked out of range of it. Now this crowd control chain is quite deadly as Monkarn trades Karma. They bop off Touch of Karma. They're going all or nothing once again. Both Burley and Joel can't assist. Locked down for quite some time. Monkarn getting soloed by Waz around the corner. He paralyzes Waz, but the paralyze breaks. He just gets dropped. Beautiful combination of crowd control by Method Black, and I like that they are not afraid to get dirty and take risks, using both Blessing and Protections to remove Karma, realizing that mana would be an issue for them in the late game. They're just going to end it quick.
Now the question is, do they go for a strategy like that throughout the entirety of the series? We talked about how the Bergen Boys definitely came very prepared when they were able to get the upset earlier in the tournament on Friday. Now you see Method Black already showing, hey, we're a team that likes to come prepared. We don't need to rely on just one strategy, which is something that we've seen from them time and time again, especially when they do get heated up in the tournament. Now, the question is, Zico, is this the strategy that you think they keep on playing? Do they keep trying to go zoom and get the quick kill?
Ooh, I was so close to being muted there, but my sticky note saved me. Ooh, that felt great. That felt great. Take that, production. All right, so the strategy, I feel like the only reason why Method Black is actually even able to land this kill here is because of that Maledict. I really like this. We saw it yesterday when Method Black played as well. Great Maledict usage. I feel like it's something that we barely talk about because we're always talking about, you know, the Obsidian Claw and the Dress Trinket and the Gladiator Spite, but Maledict is insane right now. Every time it ticks, it refreshes that healing absorb, and it ticks every 2 seconds for 8 seconds, so you can potentially absorb up to like 300,000-400,000 healing with it. It's actually insane, and that's what kind of initiated everything. Waz got that Maledict when they had the sheep on Burley. They get the kidney, and then they bop off the Karma. Waz with the pursuit around the pillar there. Chaz also playing that blinding light, which is extremely good right now. But Chaz wasn't playing Ineffable Truth A lot of people like to go Blinding Light and Ineffable Truth, because then you can have a blind every like 1 minute or every 45 seconds or so. And then, that's insane because you can hodge into blind and basically solo CC somebody, very frequently.
Yeah, that was one of the really exciting builds that we were looking for. We talked about it a whole bunch. Has that really ended up being as... I'm trying to think of the right word to say. Has it ended up being as impactful, I guess, as we thought it really would be, Van? Because I know we talked a lot. We were like, okay, versatility, gushing wounds. You end up going gushing more times than not when you want to try to get offensive. If you want to make sure that you're not going to get deleted, or you're going to end up rocking versatility. But Paladins have this one option to go for the Ineffable Truths, get that CC or that CD reduction. Has it ended up being very impactful?
Well, I would say this. So, I mean, it's a bit of a gamble, right? If you're playing the Ineffable Truth and you get procs at the right time and, your Avenging Wrath's coming up when you need it, or your Hammer of Justice is coming up when you need it, or Blinding Light, I mean, obviously it's really, really good, and there are games where it seems absolutely unbelievable and by far the best option. But if you're not getting a lot of procs, then you do miss out on a lot of healing, a lot of survivability by not having that versatility. And that's why I think we've seen a lot of Paladins just kind of opt for the consistency. They say, you know what, my cooldowns are my cooldowns. We can win the game with the timers that they are. Just having the empowered healing, the empowered survivability is how they opt to go. But I still think that it has the power to completely change a game if it procs at the right time. So I think that's why we do see some Paladins run it. It can be very good, but it is a bit of a gamble.
Yeah, it does feel like it's almost ended up being more cute than actually strong. And I feel like we have seen a lot of teams kind of err on the side of not running it, like you said, in looking for as much consistency as possible, looking for that highest percent chance to win. Now looking at Method Black and the Bergen Boys here, we're headed to Hook Point, Supatis.
All right, aggressive map makes sense here. Actually, a little bit not so much. I mean, it was Method Black that decided to play aggressively, so and it worked for them. I think it's actually the Bergen Boys that obviously want to get their chill streak setups, but they can win on mana just through pressure and damage if they don't die. And I think it's actually them that need to live quite a long time to be able to get a kill on the Rogue Mage Paladin. But it's not exactly the most difficult to live that long. But like you said, that one Maledict, only one player on the team was running the Maledict. It was Waz's Gladiator's Maledict. Combining the Spite and the Maledict can be super effective because, I don't know if it's intended, but these trinkets don't share cooldown with each other. So you can actually Spite and a Maledict at the same time. So you could stack the corruption up and absorb all the healing on the target. But so running these two PvP trinkets in combination can be super effective when you're trying to kill these specs that just never die, like Warlocks and even Windwalkers and Warriors and Mages. So perhaps we see a little bit more of this, where teams are going to be dropping the Dressing Spines for the Maledict to just absorb those heals from the hybrid. Because when Monkarn's running away like that, only he can heal himself. And his healer can't. He's crowd controlled, so you absorb all that extra healing from the Windwalker, and then you have just enough damage to kill them. That was a nice strategy from Waz.
Definitely a nice strategy from Waz. Let's see what they break out here on Hook Point, trying to get themselves on match point.
All right, let's see. I mean, we saw such an aggressive opener from Method Black in the last game, using those Spite trinkets to really punish. They didn't even really wait for it to ramp up. They just immediately went for the sap, triple Spite, blind on Burley, kidney shot on Monkarn, and they were able to get a ton of defensive cooldowns out of the way. So we'll have to see. Can Burley, Joel, and Monkarn make it a little bit better? Monkarn immediately actually sapped here. Cheap shot on Burley, cheap shot on Joel, 3v1 situation. Big damage on Monkarn. Doesn't actually look like they're going for the Spite play this game. They get the anti-magic zone, but that was not a really bizarre anti-magic zone. I mean, there was no Vendetta, was no combustion. That seemed like, honestly, a little bit of a panic there by Joel.
I mean, maybe he's baiting them because now he's thinking, well, Method Black will play aggressive because I just threw my anti-magic zone. Maybe he's like throwing it to bait them to go aggressive and then they try and counter push or something. But if that isn't what it is, then that's 100% a throw. Burley is currently polymarked. Monkarn could be in trouble. He portals back, but it's Hook Point. It's a small map. It's very easy for Waz to get back on target. I'm not a fan of this map selection. Monkarn just locked down for so long. Lingering Psychic Shell, as well as the Diffuse Magic, as well as the Fortifying Brew, as well as a Touch of Karma, as well as getting bopped on it, as well as being dead. You can't pick a small map into this aggressive all-in Method Black. They need need more space to move and breathe. Method Black have a sick all-in strategy. Neither Joel or Burley could do anything to help Monkarn for the better part of 20 seconds.
It looks like the boys from Bergen are about to get deported to the lower side of the bracket with Method Black all cylinders firing to start off this tournament. They want to get into the grand final. If we do see the Bergen Boys drop down to the lower side of the bracket, we ultimately will get a rematch as well. Zico, let's talk about why Method Black is able to get such dominant wins yet again. Does it come down to something like the Maledict, or is it just countless strategies that have been prepared leading up to a moment like this?
Well, it's just a couple of things all together. Number one, of course, this map, you got to be suicidal to pick this map against Rogue Mage Pala. That's number one.
Game, of course.
Number two, Burley has an extremely difficult spot that he is in, and he has to be out in the open because we know that if he goes behind a pillar, the rogue is just going to go there and basically try to solo him, and then eventually the DPS are going to get CC'd by the mage, and the mage is going to jump in and help burst during stunts. We've seen it so many times, and so he has to play out in the open to avoid that, right? But when he's out in the open, he can get polyed, and that's exactly what happened here. Raikou sniped him with a beautiful counterspell. When you get counterspelled as a shaman on one of your heals, you can't drop that grounding totem, you can't access your interrupt, that wind shear. So it's pretty easy to polymorph a shaman that's in the open that has just been interrupted, of course. Raikou snipes that counterspell, gets the sheep, and all of a sudden, you're in a situation where Monkarn needs to run, but where? You pick the smallest map in the game with the smallest pillars, where do you run? You can't. Blessing of Protection is going to remove that karma, and that's it. I think for the record, on a different map, Monkarn might have actually survived there because he did free a pre-Fort Brew that stun.
Yeah, so that is the question. What do you think the map is going to be as we do get to the next one? Is there anything in particular that you're looking for here, Supatis?
I mean, a bigger map. It seems to me that the thing is, I don't even think the Windwalker is the only target anymore. Because of the way Burley plays, he'll get polymorphed because he can't line of sight out in the middle eventually. They could polymorph him and then spite him. And then if he trinkets, he's going to get blind spited later. And then just get killed 100-0 no matter what. So there's two options here. If they pick a map that's better for Monkarn to avoid being killed, I think that Method Black switch and they actually will just polymorph spite Burley and try and bait trinket or just kill him. Because if you don't trinket the poly on that, you're probably going to die. Or you don't trinket something on that chain, you're probably going to die. So they have two win conditions. We haven't seen the Burley strat yet, but it's what I want to see Method Black adapt to if they pick a bigger map.
Yeah, it's so interesting
Dalaran.
to see this. So game number one, we saw Method Black. They played the spite trinkets. You know, the spite trinkets obviously worked out really, really well. And then game number two, they didn't run it. So there's a bit of a mind game there. But the Bergen Boys thought they were going to spite again. So, I mean, I'm looking at Monkarn's, basically gearing here. And he was only wearing 40 corruption total. So they only had 2 pieces of gear corrupted. So you're playing against, 6 gushings from Waz, and you only have 2 Versa amps yourself because you're so horrified of the spike trinket. You're just like a season behind in gear by not corrupting, essentially. And so I'd say Method Black, I mean, just using spite and then not using it and basically baiting the team to use no corruption whatsoever, essentially, it's a serious big brain play here from Method Black. And I mean, Bergen Boys have a difficult decision here to make in game number 3.
And game number 3 is going to be played on Dalaran Sewers, and I just want to put in everyone's mind how dire a situation like this really can be for the Bergen Boys. Yes, they were able to get that huge upset to start off the tournament, but now if they do get sent to the lower bracket, we do not think that it's going to be as easy for them to get back into the grand final. And even if they do, without Method Black slicking right now, Method Black wants to send them down to the lower bracket and then play them again. It seems like Method Black, Zico, is really holding all of the cards here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Method Black, I mean, it's kind of what we were talking about a little bit earlier. Unless Bergen Boys can, really show up against Method Black, it's looking like this is a tournament that they can just take home right away. They're obviously going to have a little bit of a hard time against Wildcard, but last time they fought, it was that Warrior DK that gave them a lot of trouble, and I think I kind of know that they have an answer for it. So Wildcard versus Method Black could go either way, but I would still favor Method Black. And if Wildcard loses to Bergen Boys in the lower bracket, then well, this tournament is all of a sudden looking very, very nice for Method Black.
Yeah, you see that.
Just a quick point on the map
Yeah.
pick. I would have liked to see Blackrock hold more than Dalaran.
I think that's a very understandable thing to want to see in a situation like this. I will just say, you saw that upset early on in EU, and you're like, oh my gosh, we might actually have a new champion here. This would be really wild to see in the first cup. And then all of a sudden, we get to Championship Sunday, and then you just remember, oh yeah, Championship Sunday is just like every single time. It's like it always feels like it's just Method Black's birthday, right? They show up and everything just works out, and it just seems so calculated. Method Black in a position right now where they're destroying the Bergen Boys. That's one of their potential opponents in the grand final, and the other team is a team that lost to the team that they're about to send down to the lower side of the bracket. So there's a good chance that they get to play this matchup twice today. The question is, will they be able to close it out here? Will they be able to set up that scenario for themselves? We find out right now.
All right, Joel is sapped. Are they spiting? They're playing spites this time around as Munkarn got Ride the Wind. He gets cheap shot. Did he get cheap shot on the Flying Serpent kick? I actually am very afraid for Joel right now.
Goodness.
Is he going to survive? That's so much corruption overload. He gets a double blinding sheep, but he's just dying through every single
nice
cooldown.
stun.
20% remaining health, holding on. Stun now on Burley. Death strike after death strike. Waz is just out of
Boom!
nowhere going to explode. What happened in this game right now?
That was
I was
nice.
thinking Joel is dead 100% through everything. Waz out of nowhere just pitter patters, runs out of breath, and falls down. Bergen Boys put a point on the board.
I mean, that was really nice. I mean, I have to say, Joel in that situation, he realized he was in big trouble. So what he did is he basically set up his team. He gripped Raikou in. They got the double blinding sheet. Was trinketed and immediately on his trinket got caught into a leg sweep, and that's what allowed Joel to survive and also allowed them to set up for that kill.
That was like one of those moments too where you're looking at Joel, you're like, oh my gosh, is he gonna go down? Is this gonna be a fast game where Joel goes down? And we get the 3-0, and then you're like, wait, where'd Waz go? He's already dead. And it was just so fast. Zico, let's break this one down. I'm assuming we're actually gonna get to rewatch that one most likely. It was just about as quick as it could be. Break down what actually did happen for us.
Well, like Ben already pointed out, Waz trinketed outside of a stun, but I was kind of tunnel visioning on Joel. I'm like, Joel, how are you going to survive this? And I just look up. I see a dressed like animation, and I see Waz on the ground. Waz, obviously, he trinketed that blinding sleet, which is not ideal because you want to trinket the stun. Otherwise, if you trinket something that's not a stun, you can get stunned without a trinket and get bursted. And that's pretty much what happened there. Munkarn leg swept his trinket. Then he started, kind of whittling him down a little bit. And then after that stun happened, he got that whirling dragon punch and his dress trinket and everything. And he was able to just quickly burst him down. I don't think Waz really saw that coming. I'm pretty sure he still had Vanish and like Evasion and some other stuff.
He trinketed the blind and then vanished instantly. And he was, I think, in stealth for some of the stun. And then he came out, and I swear he just got soloed by Windwalker.
No, he 100% did.
No.
He had evasion, though.
It was two dressed. So the Windwalker put out all his bursts, dressed, and then the DK just ran over and dressed too. That was the double dressed wombo combo.
Love to see it. Waz taking a page out of Peekaboo's book.
It's truly crazy stuff to see. Now the question is, what on earth happens in game number 4? I don't think we expected to even see a game number 4, and it is going to be the Bergen Boys who do show, hey, look, we are still a really well-prepared team. Yes, this did happen. We can make these tiny changes in the middle of a series to keep our tournament lives alive. What happens next? What do they actually do? Do they try to go for another cheeky setup like that? Or are we going to see these mind games back and forth, changing corruptions, changing what you actually bring into the field of play, even if the composition does stay the same, Super T's?
Possibly. I mean, that was like one of the best starts you can get. If you get a sap and you're playing Spite as Rogue Mage, you're like, I feel like they lost that game, but you have like a 70% increased chance of winning if you get a sap and a triple spite on someone in the opener, because if they trinket, you just blind them later, which holds them in place for the spite, and then you're guaranteed to win. So I'm actually a bit surprised. Chaz potentially just underreacting to the situation. He still had cooldowns, obviously. He wants to save those Blessing of Protections for the Touch of Karmas to try and push for an all-in kill on the Monk, but right in that situation, I mean, Waz also, he fainted, but he actually died through feint. Maybe the Drestigath hit him right before he did it, because it reduces area of effect damage, which Drestigath is literally all AoE damage, so a little bit surprising to see him die through the feint in that situation. I think that was just, you just had to chalk that up to like a fluke almost. Like, it was a good counter setup, but I don't know if that's replicatable. Is that a word? Replicatable?
Repeatable is the word
repeatable?
that people usually use. But yeah, no, very very good. You just used replicant vocabulary. But yeah, no, totally do agree with you there. That is the big question as we do head into Ruins of Lordaeron. We're going to see which composition these teams do bring. No surprise here, the Bergen Boys going to be bringing the same composition here to Ruins of Lordaeron, and I don't think we should see anything too weird in the actual draft process, Zico, for Method Black. It's really funny how much, Zico, I feel like I really want to see more so than a draft now. It's just like, what corruptions are they wearing? What Azerite traits are they wearing? How are they bringing all the pieces together? Because the end of BFA has felt kind of like a completely different game than what we've seen the rest of the expansion the past 2 years, whatever it's been at this point. It just feels completely different.
Oh yeah, for sure. I feel like we should have that knowledge like beforehand. I know like the players are, to the very last second kind of deciding on what they want to wear and everything. It's not quite possible, but of course, like, what if you're running Versa? If you think, okay, I won't be targeted, I'm gonna go ahead and run, full gushing, or I want to run Maledict or Battle Master. Like, there's so many gear choices that you can make, stat choices, and they all have a big impact on the game. And a lot of it as well with essences as well. Like, if you as a healer, you don't pick necessarily the best essence in a matchup, that could really just cause you to lose the game. So more than ever, I think it's a lot about experience and also just knowing the matchups, knowing when you can afford to be a little aggressive, knowing when you can be a little defensive, and then also seeing when others are doing that and punishing it.
Yeah, it's funny though. Like, I actually really do enjoy it. I know that people are kind of talking quite a bit about corruption and everything changing on live now that there's the vendor there as well. But when watching these matchups and knowing that people are going to be making these changes throughout different matches, I find it pretty exciting. I really do like when we see the big damn fast games as well. And now Method Black going to be locking in their composition. And like we said, the spicy stuff, we find that out once we actually do touch down to the arena, once we do get in to Ruins of Lordaeron, which could be the final game here, Sid.
All right, Ruins of Lordaeron locked in here. Match point. Bergen Boys get a one shot on Waz there. Will they get another shot at a one shot is the question. It's always a threat, but they've actually swapped back to Unholy DK over Frost. I think they've realized that the Shaman standing on top of the team opens them up to way too much vulnerability, and the Shaman has to stand on the top of the team when you're running Frost DK, whereas they run Unholy, Burley can play a little bit further back, and he doesn't need to be afraid of being polymorphed out of nowhere and then potentially spited or all-in on. So I actually think this is a heads-up play to switch back to Unholy.
Well, I think that, personally, when I'm playing my Windwalker Monk, I really like playing with an Unholy Death Knight over a Frost Death Knight. And the main reason is, it just feels like you have more consistent damage in the games, more consistent disruption. Of course, Frost has that massive, one-shot combo where you get the blind into the bouncy Frost thingy, and you literally just one-shot the entire team. It's massive damage, so they are going to miss out on that opportunity, but I would say for the majority of the game, it's going to give them more pressure, more disruption, and like Sid said, it's going to allow Burley to position in a way where he can maybe get out of the line of sight, hide a little bit more, and just position better so he's not as susceptible to crowd control.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here on Championship Sunday, this would be a fitting final resting place, as Ruins of Lordaeron is a cemetery. We see the Abomination dropped immediately to try and find one of the Rogue Mage stealth classes, but it doesn't find anyone, and they land the sap. They're playing the spites. They're going after the Windwalker Monk. How are they going to protect Monkarn? If he gets a Ride the Wind down, he can lower all those corruption stacks. He needs to get a Flying Serpent kick as soon as possible. He's fully stunned up. He's choosing not to trinket. Is this going to be the right choice? They drop the anti-magic zone in the Earthen Wall. They pop the Fortified Elixir and the Lingering Psychic Shell, and he's just holding on to dear life right now, hoping that damage reduction will be enough to survive. And it looks like it could be. Now having to Karma and Diffuse Magic. Very devastating start for Monkarn, and he's not going to have nearly the potential that he had in that last game to get things going, because at any point he could fall over.
Yeah, and it looks like, I mean, the disruption from Joel early on was quite nice. I mean, Monkarn had traded a lot of his defensive cooldowns, but he still has Trinket. Burley, of course, still has a Spirit Link. He has Ascendance. There's quite a bit for them to work with. They just have to make sure they don't under-respond to the next attempt. They're probably going to have to use the Trinket early, try to get out of line of sight. Method Black looking to set up right now. Full kidney shot on Monkarn. Going to be taking a decent amount of damage. The Spite Trinkets drop out. Monkarn runs out of it. He's using Ride the Wind, so needs to make sure he's sitting in that Ride the Wind to avoid the corruption. But Raikou snipes him with the counterspell, blinks over, and just removes him from the game. Bergen Boys immediately leave, and they will be sent down to the lower bracket for a rematch against Wildcard Gaming.